Fantastic, Scott. We're not looking outside your window. So my only comment is that I was doing a conference call with Scott yesterday, and Scott actually has a superior view. He's about 2 blocks away from us on Brickell Avenue, and he's got a superior view of the bay in Miami. So
Let me see if I can accommodate.
yeah, it looks pretty nice. I see a lot of palm trees. So Scott, you were talking about Shift Pixie, and actually, just before you spoke, we had uh, Sherwood Knight speaking about crowdfunding and reggae, and I think you guys did a reggae
We
filing,
did.
etc. So why don't you tell us about Shift Pixie, what your history, what you've done, and where you guys are going, how 2021 looks for you?
Sure. Thanks, Marty, and thanks for the opportunity to speak to the group today. Greetings, everyone. As Marty pointed out, I'm across the bay from him in Miami. We just recently re-headquartered our company to Miami, and we did that for a couple of important reasons. And as I explain the business, you'll probably have a sense for some of that. Shift Pixie's story starts really with some observations both my co-founder and I made about the human capital markets. Both of us had spent decades in the human capital management space. And in that space, we would handle the HR and compliance stack and reporting stack for small to mid-sized businesses. And we did this with small to mid-sized businesses all across the country. And what we loved about it, a couple of things. Number one, it was a rack and stack revenue business where we could, as soon as we brought a client on, they would stay with us for years, and we did that with the next one and the next one. And so it was very easy to stack and build a significant reoccurring revenue. And the reason we could do that was because of how sticky this engagement was and how valuable it was to small business owners. What we came to realize is that once they were liberated from having to do these things in the dailies, that they didn't want them back. And so that was a great business for us to be in for, as I said, decades. But there's some things that happened in the marketplace that people weren't paying attention to. And what I'll do is I'm going to pull up my slide deck here and kind of go through some of our discoveries. One of the things that, it's always fun to do is to find big problems and solutions for these big problems. And so that's really what Shift Pixie was engineered to do. What we found, or what we discovered, was that in this space, there was a neglected part of the market that we typically stayed away from. Our contemporaries, by the way, in that human capital management space were people like TriNet, Insperity, ADP has a division that does this, as does Paychex, that handle the human capital management stack for companies. And but one of the rules of thumb was that you stayed away from part-time labor concentrations. And the reason you did that is because if I'm handling that stack for you, turnover becomes toxic for me. The expectation with any part-time labor-driven market historically had been we could expect 100% turnover. And so industries like restaurants and retail and some of the service trades would see 100% turnover. That was the historic benchmark. And the reason that you didn't, again, it wasn't just about handling the employee compliance and all the paperwork and the onboarding and offboarding and doing it with frequency. It was also we lost points of monetization. For example, health benefits and retirement benefits were not part of part-time labor constructs, so we'd lose those points of monetization. But what we learned as we, and it's actually a fairly recent occurrence, that the problem that we saw develop really started after that first collapse of Wall Street in September of 2008. 2.6 million jobs were lost, and today, obviously, with COVID, that seems like a drop in the bucket. But what was significant to us at that point in time in September 2008 was this new designation that the US Department of Labor started to track. And it was called underemployed. And they gave a number to that, 8 million underemployed, which meant that their jobs or their projects had altered in such a way that that they had to find a way to reconstruct their income. And the tradition to reconstruct your income back then would have been to go to work in restaurants or retail or tend bar at nights and weekends to reconstruct their income. And most people that worked the capital markets back then remember this time frame very clearly, this September of 2008. But what most people don't pay attention to is what happened a few months later in March of 2009. And that's when Uber was born. And imagine this, for Uber, they're born into this perfect storm where now you had 8 million people that were underemployed that would normally have to hit the street to reconstruct their income, could now do that by flipping on their mobile phone and using their card to reconstruct their income. And as soon as this opportunity met despair, was also technology meeting and fixing a big problem that nobody paid attention to. But what more importantly, what happened at the birth of Uber and the birth of these types of platforms was it completely changed the rules of engagement in the part-time labor markets. And we could see this escalating as well because of the advent or the rise of smartphone technology. So some new technologies really came in and invaded the part-time labor markets. And some of these names.
Scott, I just want to jump in here for just one second real quick, because I use like almost all these services that you have listed here. But you know, what's interesting is that people have been projecting for a long time a labor shortage. And what you do seems to make the labor market far more efficient.
That's right.
Hopefully you'll address it as you keep on going.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, what we saw was that with the incursion of these new technologies and these new platforms and the way they created opportunity and the way they engaged people in these opportunities completely changed the part-time labor markets. And the other thing that was happening at the same time was this rise of the independent workforce. In 2019, there were 41 million people that considered themselves independent or self-employed. And of that population, about 24% of those were using one of these types of platforms to fill out their dance card. And of that population, 38% of those were millennials. But the projection is that by 2023, over 50% of the US workforce will be operating in some independent fashion. So this rapid rise of the independent workforce is really on everybody's radar right now. When we look at this market, the US part-time labor market, that's a total population right now about 28 million people. But we also see this as a hidden market. Everybody ignores this. It was very interesting spending a lot of time with institutional investors. And when we started talking about this market, they never understood what we were talking about. I said, here's the way to think about this. This is these are the baristas that hand you your coffee in the morning. These are the people that bus your tables in the restaurant. These are the people that are all around you that most people don't pay attention to. And again, from our vantage point, nobody services this trade. Nobody wants to because of high turnover. But what we saw in this opportunity was not just a $560 billion market that nobody was paying attention to, but technology had arrived at a time where we could take cutting edge technology and as Michael was talking about, leveraging machine learning and AI, which is what we're doing, to manage a workflow. And in this particular case, it's the part-time work week. So now we can leverage a very elegant technology, bring it back to the brick and mortar operators, and create their ability now to participate in the new labor markets without having to make any investment. And they're able to compete the same way in the same fashion that all the gig platforms are capturing workers now. For us, in this, the way we monetize this, each shifter on our platform, we bill out at about $20,000 a year. That's kind of the basis for part-time labor wages, annualized. And for us, that produces about $1,200 in gross profit a year per shifter on our platform. So we think that we're really arriving at a perfect time, as to Marty's point about labor shortages. now for brick and mortar operators, now they can start competing for that same eroded labor base that is now fully adapted to these mobile technologies and these mobile services. And they can do that without making any investment. And our whole approach to this is to take a compliant employer approach. We're not entering the market in the ways that using independent contractors, which is going to continue to be a controversy for all these platforms. But we're really engineering this to minimize the job provider's administrative burdens by taking over an employer status and treating these people as W-2s. But we're also leveraging the technology to create real-time connections between the shift providers and those that are seeking shifts. And it's really designed around this whole new work ethic that has emerged because of the gig economy. What we try to tell operators that when we talk to them about this paradigm, they have to rethink human capital. It's no longer about what you have, it's about what you have access to. But we also talk to them about all the things that swirl around their business that have to do with the management and ownership of human capital. And our proposition is a fairly simple one. The mechanics are that they ship those responsibilities over to a Shift Pixy, and they don't own those anymore. And they also don't own the burden of labor fulfillment because while being on our platform. The other side of the equation is this is really meeting some of the new work ethic in the marketplace. What we're hearing from a lot of these gig economy workers is one of their motivations is they love being able to work on an on-demand basis, where they can work when they want, and they don't have to be tied to a particular location. And that goes to independence. They don't have to be tied to a particular location, a particular schedule, and also they can produce extra income instead of having to ask their boss for more hours. Let's say they have car insurance due at the end of the month. On a platform like Shift Pixy, they can cobble that extra income together. The other thing that we're hearing too is that they like the idea of being able to access opportunity anywhere and at any time, no matter what market. Let's say maybe they're going to school in New York, but they live in Texas. And on a platform like this, they can work while they're in school in New York, and then when they're on summer break or spring break in Texas. So there's a lot of nuances to this new work ethic that we're catering to. And what we're creating for the operators in this, we're highly verticalized. Of that population of 28 million that work part-time, half of those are in the restaurant and hospitality industry. And we verticalize in large markets, but we also verticalize around those types of the food service business. Because what you're getting is access to people that are similarly trained in safe food handling, as an example, and know their way around a kitchen. So there's not a big learning curve, and they're hard to find anyway. These one of the things we tell restaurant operators is the big problem for them right now is they can't find and they can't keep people. And so that's the problem that we're fixing, was this idea being that we share these employees in these local markets so that we create this live, local, on-demand workforce. When we started introducing this concept and started building out our technology, there was another phenomenon that was kind of happening to the restaurant operator community in particular, and it was the birth and advent of third-party delivery. And it's interesting that we're talking about this today because DoorDash has priced their IPO today. And there's a lot of interest and a lot of people watching these platforms. But what people weren't paying attention to, and we started kind of poking the bear there a little bit, asking our multi-unit operators why they would surrender their customer experience and their brand to a kid in a red golf shirt and cap. That didn't make any sense. And also what they were surrendering was their customer data. And we started asking that question amongst the operator community. And that's when we started hearing about all the horror stories about no food, cold food, half-eaten food, all manner of ick for the consumer, but the anger for which was rolling back to these local operators under these national brands. And to add insult to injury, they were giving up 30% of each ticket. So they were making no money on this and damaging their brand. So we looked at our human capital engagement and our technology stack, and we saw an opportunity to fix this second big problem for these restaurant operators. And said, what if we could facilitate self-delivery? And the process was to add some additional technology that would allow us to go in and intercept these online orders, turn them into a ticket, but designate a driver from the local staff there at the store and handle all the driver management responsibilities that are required to even get the commercial insurance coverage to cover delivery. So that now these operators could send a uniformed staff member out to deliver a brand attendant experience to the consumer. But more importantly, they also get to keep that 30% of commission that they were giving up. And when we introduced this concept and started building out the technology, it got everybody very excited. And it kind of changed. I like to tell people we were fishing with new bait. But what was interesting is we were introducing this, a lot of people were resistant to change, because to fix the two big problems that we're fixing for this community, they gotta get under the hood and make some changes. And so everybody would stop short. That wasn't until COVID hit. And this goes back to, one of the earlier speakers was talking about opportunity markets in the midst of COVID, and we're certainly one of those. Suddenly, we were deluged by all kinds of interest from the restaurant operator community and thought leadership, within the restaurant industry about they were just struggling to keep the lights on. So they saw us as a solution for changing their and rethinking their human capital needs, but also rethinking their connection to customers. And so self-delivery became a very big subject of conversation, and continues to be so for us. And now, instead of doing outbound, sales or evangelism, if you will, now everything's coming inbound, and now it's a matter of just vetting opportunity and creating those. So one of the things that we did, we made sure that they understand that we're monetizing everything through the labor. So all the technology that we're providing for them, they don't pay for. That's very important for them. The other is speed of setup. And so we've tried to make it as friction-free as possible for these operators. And this is it's really opened up a lot of interesting doors for us. And one of the
Scott, can I just jump in here for one
yes.
second real quick? So you have this technology, it allows you to bring on people as virtual employees of I guess your firm, right? It handles all their tax compliance and issues like that. I mean, would there ever be the possibility of like an Uber trying to license that technology from you, or you're working as a partnership with some of these other firms like a Lyft who don't have these people as employees, in case they wanted to roll out immediately, or what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, actually, we've got an interesting another market anomaly that's kind of changing things for us, and it's the conflict for all these platforms that have been operating in a legally non-compliant fashion in the way that they're handling their workforce. Some of these are much smaller. The Ubers and Lyft probably have enough capital that they can stave off some of these state assaults, from the state's attorneys general and that sort of thing. Uber, as an example, and Lyft got a small reprieve from the state of California, but that's not going to be the end. They're going to have to continue to address that with the state of California. But some of the smaller operators in that space are kind of coming out of the weeds and out of the shadows and saying, listen, we know that this is not going to last long. Cash-starved states are not going to let us not contribute employer-side tax revenue. We know that we need to clean this up. We're too small to take the kind of hit that these big guys are. And so they're coming to us as a platform for managing that, but also as a compliant platform for managing that, because they know they need to come out of the weeds. And that's part of what we're doing for them. And I'll show you that in a subsequent slide here. But I want to kind of camp on this part of what we're doing here. And this is really unique in this marketplace. There's a lot of legacy technology that food service operators use in their point of sale system that help them manage inventory, time and attendance, kind of their general ledger accounting. But we have to point out to them that that's actually their legacy technology. That's how you ran your business before. If you're going to be effective and you're going to be able to compete in this new world that COVID, or who knows what the next pandemic might be, you need to be focused on your Destiny technology, which is these orange dots. And the Destiny technology takes you other places. It takes you to mobile payment at the table. It takes you to customer online ordering or customer capture. It takes you to your own mobile application where you're able to build your customer community and curate a customer community. But it also allows you to engage driver management, which also engages the customer in the full service cycle of that particular order. But more importantly, at the end of this technology stack that we provide, is this idea of digital remarketing of these customers and really building a community. And nobody is doing that. Nobody in the food service side is doing that. And nobody in the technology world is really providing this end-to-end from customer acquisition, customer management, all the way to customer remarketing. And so this full suite that we're proposing is getting a lot of interest. And the way we look at our roadmap, we're still going to be faithfully involved with the restaurant operator community. Again, that represents half of this population that's unserved. And you're going to see us very dominant and very in the more population dense areas. You're going to see delivery and self-delivery, what we call native delivery, is going to continue to become a factor, especially now with these reoccurring shutdowns. But we're also in that space where we've been invited by many ghost kitchen operators, and that's kind of a new anomaly in the culinary world. And essentially what it is, it's shared space. Instead of a restaurant operator or a culinary artist being tied to real estate, now in the midst of COVID, a lot of them are rethinking their real estate assets. And so we've got some clever things that we're unpacking there that you want to keep an eye out on.
Hey, Scott, I just want to interrupt you. You need to talk to Alec Andronikov, who's going to be on the venture capital panel. And I think he's like in the building over from you in Miami. So,
okay.
Because he's been in the whole ghost kitchen space for a while.
Well, we're doing, I'll tell you what, there's a lot of capital coming into that right now. And we've had, the reason we're getting invited to participate there is because of the technology stack. The fact is, if you're going to de-lever yourself from real estate, unmoor the business from real estate, you're going to have to become a good digital marketer. And so that's why we keep getting invitations. But as we started looking at that business, we thought, you know what, this is probably something we should be in, but we want to take a very different approach to it. What we're doing is we just opened up here in Miami. We just took down 23,000 feet out by MIA, and we're getting ready to open what we call Shift Pixy Labs. And it's going to serve two purposes. Number one, it's going to function as a ghost kitchen, but we're using it as a culinary incubator and accelerator. And our target clients understand exactly how to use that. And so what we're doing is bringing them in, and we're actually going to chronicle everything. We're actually building our own in-house production team, and we're going to chronicle everything. And what we're going to start with is a kind of a competition content that'll kind of think Iron Chef meets Shark Tank. And the idea is that we're looking for that next big idea in QSR, in restaurant. And so we're going to continue to incubate these new business models out of this incubator. In fact, there's like 3 or 4 of them that we're going to bring to market coming in 2021. But this is really exciting, and this is going to give restaurant brands the opportunity to incubate an idea and bring it to market digitally, and again, completely unmoored from their real estate. So we're really excited about what we're getting ready to do here in Miami. The other thing on our roadmap is that when we build our technology stack, we knew it was going to be a vital interest to the temporary staffing industry. And part of what's happening for us there is that, again, some of these non-compliant models, people that were in providing labor, but doing it on a 1099 basis, realized they had to come out of the rain. And so we've got several of those types of opportunities, and it's taking us into medical staffing, but it's also, this platform is allowing us to help private equity groups that are looking at doing staffing roll-ups. There's a very elegant approach that we've been able to help them construct that allow them to do asset purchases of these staffing companies, plug them onto our platform, and keep doing that in series. And they suddenly have continuity of product, continuity of operating support. So that's going to be a very big thing for us in this next year. The other thing, and it's kind of my closing comment, is that, you know, as our population grows, as we start getting to that 100,000, 200,000 in terms of our population, there's a lot of interest from major retail that we might be one of those platforms that allow them to populate and fill their staffing requirements for seasonal labor. So that's something to think about further down the road. We've been doing very well. The business has been doubling every year and shows no signs of stopping. We're actually seeing some things that start to accelerate our profitability, but in coming into this next year. But it's been a great run for us and continues to be so. And again, it's that $560 billion hidden market that everybody's ignoring. So right now we're the only ones in there in this green field, and it's been a blast to pursue it. But
a couple of questions. You're from Orange County originally. That's where Pixy originated.
That's right, Orange County.
And now you guys are in Florida, which is heavy in the delivery space. And you are a public firm at this point in time?
Yes, we are. We trade on NASDAQ under the ticker symbol PIXY. And yeah, you can find us.
What is your fee per person on your network?
Generally, what we do is when we monetize the human capital at about a 3 to 5% rate right now, but that's about to change because we've turned on the features now. We're actually getting ready to turn them on for the first of the year that actually allow us what we call intermediation or sharing. And so if you're an operator on our platform and you start pulling from our human capital pool, you'll actually pay at about a 10% rate. So we're looking forward to being able to tap into better margins.
Something that's really interesting is that on that one slide where you had like 10 other, part-time temp workers, suppliers, et cetera, all their fees have gone up from originally like 3 to 5% to now they're at 10 to 15%.
That's right.
Fee structures on different types of laborers. So it's real fascinating.
That's also one of our appeals to the staffing industry is that now instead of being in the recruiting business, they can just pull from our pool. It makes their life and their business a lot more easy.
Fantastic. Well, real interesting. And thanks so much for participating.